Hi, I'm Angie Austin with Oil and Gas 360, and we're at EnerCom's 2016 Oil and Gas Conference, and we're joined this morning by Steve Brunner. He is the president of Petro River Oil out of New York City. Good morning, Steve.
Morning, how are you?
So quite a few conferences you've been to, haven't you?
Well, most of us are industry, war men, and we've been around for plus 30 years.
Many years. All right, so let's start with the layout of Petro River Oil. What's the company's business model and what are the relationships?
Well, the business model is pretty simple, and we're not a shale company, we're not a conventional company, we're a conventional oil and gas company. We use modern 3D seismic to mitigate risk. We go into areas both domestically and internationally, prolific producing areas where they have been, years and years of production, and basically we use the modern seismic to locate areas that haven't been developed and produced.
Excellent.
So it's
All
conventional wells, 3D seismic, low F&D cost, low production cost.
Let's talk a little bit about those relationships. Horizon Energy, could you give an update on the Horizon assets and a timeline for activity for 2016-17 for their projects involving Petro River's participation?
Petro River has a 20% interest in the Horizon Energy Partners portfolio. So just a little bit about relationship. I really view that as the exploration part of the company. The private side tends to tolerate the higher risk for exploration better than the public company. So that's the exploration arm of the relationship. Petro River tends to be the lower risk exploration and production company. Horizon actually has three main areas. Right now, Western Europe, we drilled a well in Larn Basin. We didn't have an initial economic success, but we had a discovery of thermogenic gas. So the plan there is through 16 and 17 to reprocess seismic, shoot additional seismic, and make decisions about drilling in Northern Ireland. More near term than that is the relationship in California and the prospects. It's in Kern County. Again, you'll find the strategies the same. We've gone into areas where there has been prolific production. So oil production in Kern County, California. We have two areas where we're going to shoot almost 60 square miles of 3D seismic. One area, we call it our Mountain View prospect. It's a 100 million BOE field. We're going back in. It's never had modern seismic shot on it. From the initial 3D, the old 3D, we see lots of prospects. We're going to shoot new 3D, and I believe we're going to develop a lot of new prospects in this old producing area. One of the advantages of an old producing area is that you have proven source, you have proven reservoirs, and there's lots of infrastructure, so we don't have the same kind of problems with production takeaway or processing or services to function.
That makes sense.
In California, we're shooting 3D seismic in the fourth quarter and plan to drill the first well in both our Grapevine prospect and our Kern County prospect in the first quarter of next year. When I say we, Horizon Energy Partners.
Right. All right, you touched on Ireland, so let's head to Ireland. Petro River participated in an exploratory well in the Larn Basin in Northern Ireland in 2016. So what was the result of the well? What did you learn about the basin, and what's next for the Larn Basin? So let's explore that.
Larn Basin is one of the last unexplored carboniferous basins in the North Sea. For political reasons, geopolitical reasons related to the IRA in Belfast, there wasn't much activity there. Those have resolved themselves. The last well that was drilled was, I believe, with Shell in some 1940s, I believe they drilled a well with Shell. So it's been sparsely drilled. We actually had seismic, 2D seismic. We believe from the initial seismic, there are multiple structures and hundreds of millions of barrels of potential. So this was the first well that was actually drilled in the basin. We drilled through a Triassic and through a Permian section. The Permian section thickened on us. We didn't get to the Carboniferous, which is the source rock. But at the base of the Permian, we had background gas. We took that gas, sent it to a lab, had it tested. It's thermogenic in nature, which meant it was produced from an oil producing, generating horizon around, around 4,000 meters and 150 degrees C. We had C1 through C6, so that tells us we have a viable source in the area. So the first well did prove up, or at least lend itself for us to believe that we have a viable source in the area, even though that wasn't an economic success. Offshore, this is an onshore-offshore lease of about 130,000 acres. We have a better grid of 2D seismic we're reprocessing. We'll probably shoot a 3D seismic grid offshore and then talk about drilling a well, but that's a typical offshore international capital cycle time of 3 to 5 years, so it's farther out now.
Excellent. All right, you talked a fair amount about Kern County and California, but let's talk California and Oklahoma. Can you talk about Petro River's Oklahoma assets, a little bit more about California, and what are the plays and what is your plan to develop those assets?
Right. So in Oklahoma in particular, I have a lot of experience. I was with another company for about 7 years, had drilled over 300 wells and had an 80% success rate without seismic. So it's a conventional opportunity. The same thesis, it's a prolific producing area. We've gone in and we have access to a new 3D seismic chute. We've reprocessed it, and in Oklahoma we have a concession. It's about 106,000 acres. 35 square miles of seismic is the first seismic area that we're undertaking to evaluate. We have over 4,480 acres of closure, structural closure that showed up when we analyzed the seismic. We actually have drilling plans for fourth quarter this year. We're going to drill 4 wells and recomplete 1 well. We'll test about 1,600 acres of the closure, and within that we believe we have a resource potential of about 2.5 million barrels. Now these wells, to test the structure in Oklahoma, they're shallow. We don't drill deeper than about 3,500 feet. It's conventional, it's not horizontal, and so we test the structure for about $100,000. We can drill and complete a well for about $180,000. And these wells have EUR potential anywhere from 35,000 barrels a well to 95,000 barrels a well. So quite economic even in today's prices.
Right.
We'll have the first 1,600 acres tested fourth quarter this year.
Wow. It's an exciting field you're in.
Well, it's old school really.
Yeah.
So much energy and capital has been diverted to the resource plays with good reason. Lots of success and lots of great companies have done it. We're actually taking the approach that it's not competitive to be in the old basins using 3D seismic. In terms of competitive, I mean, no one else is trying to do it really on a large scale. So our cost of services, our cost of deals, our cost of acquisition is very, very low, very competitive. And in today's price environment, we believe we have to be able to be profitable at $40 a barrel and have good outcomes if and when prices escalate back to 60. So all of our F&D is below $10 a barrel. All our lifting cost is below $10 a barrel. So we believe we're profitable and have quite a bit of opportunity in Oklahoma that, given success in the fourth quarter, will be repeatable and expandable. We're going to shoot another 55 square miles of 3D on our concession, and we have no reason to believe the geology and the opportunity set isn't the same, just in Oklahoma.
Well, let's end by talking about the balance sheet look. Do you have an update on the NASDAQ application, and what are the company's plans to raise capital to begin drilling and developing assets? What do you see as the priorities for allocating capital when that time comes?
Right. Well, in terms of capital, we have capital in hand now to undertake our initial exploration program on all our prospects. The company has no debt, and we have applied for an uplifting to the NASDAQ. We expect to have that process complete this year. So in terms of our initial exploration program and perhaps unlocking some of the initial potential, we already have the capital in hand. The drilling plans are in place for fourth quarter this year and first quarter next year. And in terms of access to capital markets, we haven't had to yet. With success and an uplifting to the NASDAQ, we believe we'll approach the capital markets for development.
Excellent. Anything you want to add?
This is a different play. I know the focus has been on resource plays. There's some concern about economic viability at the lower prices. Everything we do has the same value thesis. It's prolific producing areas. We're doing conventional drilling and completion. We're using 3D seismic to mitigate risk, and we're very profitable at these prices.
Excellent. Thank you, Steve. It's Steve Brunner again, president of Petro River Oil. I'm Angie Austin with Oil and Gas 360. Thank you so much for joining us.